Namaste. I want to elaborate on the Indian history in 10 minutes, in more than less than 15 minutes, I will say. We will go on by starting from the point of Indus Valley, from the point of 9,000 years civilization before Christ. That was the site, archaeological site of Bhimbetka in Madhya Pradesh. Then we will see the emergence of some of the Meghregar, 1,000 years before Christ in Baluchistan. Then we can see, already about the Indus Valley civilization, Harappan civilization in the year 3,300 years before Christ. But recently, I think some months ago, or I don't know how much time it took, but I read something about this aging of the Indus civilization went back to 9,000 years, not 3,000 years, 5,000 years. As they used to say, 5,000 years before Indus civilization started, but now we think that the civilization dates back more than that, 5,000 years, 9,000, at least 9,000 years. When you have after that civilization, we see the emergence of Vedic influence, and all those great books, all those sacred literature of Rig Veda, Yajurveda, Atharvana Veda, all that were written during this period, 1,000 years before Christ, BC. And from 1,000 years to 500 years before Christ, we see the strengthening of this kind of culture from the Vedic roots. And slowly, 600 before Christ, we can witness the emergence of 16 Mahajanapadas, and this kind of cities are even mentioned by these 16 cities. Among them, some few are important centers mentioned by even Panini in the 4th century BC. He speaks about 22 distinct regions called Mahajanapadas, and then they are Kasi, Kosala, Anga, Mahada, Vaji or Vriji, Mala, Shetty or Sheddi, Vatsa, Kuru, Panchala, Matsya, Suresena, Asaka or Ashmaka, Avanti, Gandhara and Komboja. Thus, all this period, all these 22 distinct regions are called Mahajanapadas. Mahajana, this is a kind of densely. At least I will finish by telling that densely populated areas. 16 Janapadas. Yeah, okay. And then we see the birth of Cyrus in the Persian continent. Cyrus, I don't know how to pronounce it, Cyrus, Cyrus, in the year, in the 538 years before Christ. And this is a very, he established the Achaemenid Empire. And this empire was going to be in conflict with the Greek Empire, and even up to the date of Alexander, who 333 years before Christ invades India after the fall of this Darius, this no of the father of the last emperor of Hashemenid, Darius III. Alexander takes over this region, Satap of it. Satap is a region according to the administration of Persia, and the satrap. So every satrap used to be considered as a region of belonging to the Persian Empire. And 330 years before Christ, Alexander tried his best to invade India, but was surprised to see that even a small king like Porus of Takchila resisted so much that he has to go back to his own land, and very hastily. But some fellows or some guys used to say, "Oh, Alexander has won over Indians, Raja and king." But if that was the case, why should he go back to his own country and not coming inside India, crossing the Sindh, in the river in Punjab and everything? Why didn't he do that? He was very in a hurry to get back to his own country. That shows he was defeated by that small king, Porus. And then 321 years before Christ, Chandragupta Maurya established his Mauryan kingdom by taking over the Nanda dynasty with the help of Chanakya. And this going to be a breakthrough and a very new history in the Indian history, because Maurya brings the unification of India. The whole India will be under the King Maurya, but except South India. And his son Bindusara is worth mentioning. And then all about 273 years before Christ, Ashoka, the Mauryan king, the grandson of Chandragupta Maurya, began to establish his own kingdom. Bindusara was an administrator and not a conqueror, but Ashoka was both. He was establishing some conquest, and then administratively speaking, he was also very strong by spreading Buddhism up to the Satrapian, the erstwhile Satrapian regions, or the Central Asian regions of the Greco-Bactrian part. The Greeks were living not so far away from India, because they took over the region of Persia, and then they established their own all over the region of Bactria. They established a kingdom, Greco-Bactrian kingdom, and this kingdom was very much culturally assimilating all our Indian traditions, and so there was not a very dangerous situation between us and Greeks. Greeks were friendly and were not to be taken to be considered as ferocious invaders like Mohammedans, and they were easy, and we didn't have much problem also, and up to even Seleucus was pushed back, was defeated by our kings. So Chandragupta Maurya, and then the Satavahana Empire was created. That was a very crucial thing, because after the fall of Mauryan Empire, dynasty, when Brihadartha was killed by the Shunga dynasty. We saw the rise of Central Asian kingdoms like Scythian, Indo-Greek kingdoms, and Parthian. Parthian is mostly Persian, and then Kushan from Xinjiang, from China. But China at the time was Turkestan. Turkestan was more the was nowadays inhabited by Uyghurs, Muslims, and this region, Kushan, gave to us the great king Shiva Bhakta, Kanishka, and then it was 78 years before Christ, Gautami Putra Satkarni. Gautami Putra Satkarni defeated all those Central Asian kingdoms, and he was a ferocious king. Gautami Putra Satkarni. He was from Andhra Pradesh, actual Andhra Pradesh, Amaravati river, and fought every kind of foreign invasions very successfully and pushed them back to their own lands, Central Asia. So then after his fall, then the Gupta Empire was emerged in the year 240 years before Christ, and this was the golden age when Chandragupta, when the Gupta saw the rise of the cultural Indian Renaissance with astronomy, astrology, mathematics, and geometry, trigonometry, algebra, everything, medicine, everything was given a golden era to flourish. Chandragupta, after 319 years after Christ, and then Samudragupta 330 years after Christ. After Samudragupta, we had Kumaragupta 380, Chandragupta II 380 years after Christ, and then 415 years after Christ was Kumaragupta, and then also Chandragupta the second, Chandragupta 555. All these names may seem to be the same, but they are the descendants sometimes. The Chandragupta, who ruled 455 after onwards, was not the same one before, who ruled in 318 before Christ. And then this continued till the invasion of this Gupta period continued afterwards till the invasion of after the emergence of Harshavardhana as the great king in the year 606 after Christ, and then 761 after Christ was witnessed the first invasion of Muslims in India by Muhammad bin Qasim. And this guy, Muhammad bin Qasim, tried to take over India, but he didn't succeed because there was very stiff resistance to him. 4 or 5 kings gave him the beating that he will never forget, and then he returned back to his country. But he managed to get something like Sindh in the backyard of northern India, actual Pakistan, Sindh. And then 1000 years after Christ, the first millennium, first century of the second millennium, where we saw the most dramatic invasion by Muhammad of Ghazni, who after that we saw also under an Muhammad the Ghazni was followed by Muhammad of Ghori, who was uh, the Prithviraj Chauhan Rajput kings. But Rajput was very generous and sent him back to his own country after pardoning him or after giving him after allowing him to return to his own country, even though he could have killed him. He did see this because of this error. We have to pay a large price, very heavy price till now, because this paved the way for the establishment of the Muslim rule in India by allowing Ghori to go back to his country, because he came back to kill Prithviraj Chauhan, and this paved the way to the establishment of Sultan rule in India from the year 1211 to 1414, where we saw many dynasties until 526. The sultans were there, for dynasties after dynasties: Mamluk, Khilji, Tughlaq, Sayyid, Lodi. Mamluks were the slave dynasty, with Qutbuddin Aibak in the year 2206, starting from him to this kind to Shamsuddin Qayyumar to the year 1290, and then we had the Khilji, and we went on to the Lodi dynasty with Ibrahim Lodi, who ruled from 1517 to 526, and this time is also the time of the Vijayanagar Empire. The Vijayanagar Empire was ruling in the southern India and consolidating its power from 1336 to 565, and this kingdom had been was devastated, was won by a coalition of sultans, and tragically in 1565, the end of the Vijayanagar Empire. We have to see that because of the coalition of many sultans and against one kingdom of south, but that served its purpose, I will say, the Vijayanagar Empire, which managed to secure the Tamil Nadu, the southern kingdoms of India, southern states, actual states of Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, modern states of India, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, were then part of Vijayanagar Empire. So we were in the south very much preserved and protected and in security, complete security from the Sultan rules for a very long time, thanks to the Vijayanagar Empire. And then unfortunately, what should happen had happened, except I would say that Malik Kafur, when had to ride on the Madurai, that was a very tragic incident, when South India was also witnessing some kind of invasion from the northern sultans. Malik Kafur was sent to get back some parts of South India, and he got some Tiruchi and Tanjavur. Some states of Tamil Nadu were under the Sultan rule. Vijayanagar then freed all this, and they were enjoying full liberty and independence from all those fellows for good for up to 1565. It's a very comfortable period. That's also then we are seeing the rise of after the sultans we saw the tribal people of Afghanistan, a mix of Central Asian and Turkish origin people coming to India. They were called they were a mix of Mongolian tribe also. We called them Mughal. Mughal is a name given to the title given to those fellows, those people who were from this region of Central Asia, Afghanistan, Tajikistan, all those Central Asian regions, also from Persia, and then they came to India when the sultans were Lodi was ruling, and Babar took over, defeated Lodi in Panipat. Then we will have witnessed one by one Humayun, Sher Shah. Sher Shah was not Mughal, but he was also for in the timeline of the Mughal rule, plays in the in between. Then Humayun and also Akbar. Akbar is son, Humayun's son, and then Jahangir is Akbar's son. Then we will see Shah Jahan, who is the son of Jahangir, and then Aurangzeb is the son of Shah Jahan, who was a very violent emperor, and this violent emperor's rise was also coinciding with the rise of Shivaji, because when Shivaji was born in 1627, then the real fight between the Maratha and Aurangzeb starts. They will have to fight for 27 years till the death of Aurangzeb. Marathans will not let the Mughal Empire rule over India in peace. They will give them much trouble, and due to harassment, after harassment from Marathas, the energy, the level of Mughal Empire was falling down, declining completely and disappearing from India. This I think should be a rejoiceful moment for all Hindus, and it is to be called rightly as the first independence of India. When the Shivaji clan, Maratha kings established their own people in Delhi, I would call that day the real independence of India. The Delhi was reconquered by the Marathas in the year 1737 after Christ, and I think we should at least consider the birth date of Shivaji as the year 737 as the year of independence of India, because it is a very real independence of the Hindu kingdoms getting over, conquering the Mughals and sending them as they are to their own destiny. Then after that, the history of India will fall in the hands of the British. So, to make the short, after that, everybody knows the history of India. At least we used to read about English history more than what we know of our own history. Though I don't want to talk about that part of the story, I just leave that for you to read. And now I end up with saying that it is the more than Shivaji was the first emperor for me, who brought the real independence of India. And then I will say the first one will be Vijayanagar Empire. Yeah. Then the second Independence Day should be that of the birthday of Maratha King Shivaji. The third Independence Day should be the Sipai Mutiny of under the British. After that, the fourth one, or fake, I don't know. I will leave it to you. The Independence Day after the death of Gandhi. After we have sent the British back to their own England. Okay, this is the short story of India from the beginning to the end, and then some ideas here and there I have to sell. The Kushans with Kanishka was a Shivaite. He came from China and was a Shivaite. This is very unusual thing. And the day the Persian Empire fall to the Arab conquering Arabs from the Raishuddin Caliphate, that day was a sad day, because when the Persian lost their own culture, which was more similar to our culture, that day they changed into a alien country for us. They became 100% Islamized, and then we lost this connection of fraternal connection with the Iranians, because Iran was considered as a friendly nation to India, and that changed from the day one when they were Islamized and converted to Islam in 1681. Then it is over. What to do? Very sad thing to see this. And I think this is a very important period when the conversion of Iran, Persia was converted to Islam. That day onwards, our problems started, because more and more people from Persia, converted people, came to India to attack India. Not the ones from Arabian, Saudi Arabia. Not. This Abbasid dynasty and everything else was Persian. And even Nadir Shah, when the Persia was converted to Islam, it was more terrible. Safavid and all those dynasties after the conversion to Islam, the Persian continued to harass us, but with the difference that they were more violent in their actions, in their invasions, and we had seen that for 1,000 years. For 1,000 years, I will say only if you consider only the Sultan period, or depending upon what you consider, it may be 800 or 250, like that. Mughal Empire lasted from at least 250 years, and then it was all over when the British came, especially when the Marathas came, and then the British, Okay, this is a very quick history of India.